Hello everyone, welcome to Barca News. It is August 8th, 2025, and Robert Lewandowski and Lamine Yamal have been fined for violation of anti-doping rules. Also, Barcelona have cut ties with D-Drive, the promoting company D-Drive. And finally, Jofre Torrents could end up benefiting from Inigo Martinez's exit. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and we'll begin this video with the news that UEFA have fined Robert Lewandowski and Lamine Yamal for violations of anti-doping rules, and these fines resulted from violations that happened during the second leg of the Champions League against Inter Milan, where Barcelona were knocked out of the Champions League 4-3 at the hands of the Italian team. Now, both Lewandowski and Lamine Yamal have been fined 5,000 euros each. And no, it's not what you think, because I'm already seeing on social media Madridistas foaming at the mouth like rabid dogs, sharing the headlines. Look, I told you, Lewandowski and Lamine Yamal are doping. Yes, remember the whole rapping on Lamine Yamal's hand, that supposedly that's how he was doping, because apparently that's how athletes dope. They put the steroids on the wrapping, and they wrap it on their hand, and it gets absorbed through the skin. Look, these are the same people who believe that somehow Real Madrid are a victim in Spain, even though if you open any history book, you would realize that that's completely incorrect. All the powers are in favor of Real Madrid. In fact, everybody who runs the Royal Spanish Football Federation, the CTA, La Liga, they're all Madridistas. I mean, this is a fact. This is not a matter of opinion. And statistically speaking, Madrid have been the ones who mostly been favored by referees throughout their entire history. So I'm not surprised that these idiots are sharing headlines to articles that, well, they didn't even bother reading, because had they read them, they would have known that no, Lamine Yamal and Lewandowski were not found doping. The reason why they were fined for violations of anti-doping rules is because they didn't report immediately to the doping station. That's it. When the match ends, you're supposed to go directly to the anti-doping station, do the test, and done. They didn't do it immediately, so they got fined. There was no positive test results, nothing like that. But again, I mean, asking these morons to read apparently is too much. But anyways, Lamine Yamal and Robert Lewandowski were not the only ones fined by UEFA. Hansi was also fined as a result of that match against Inter Milan. He was fined 20,000 euros, plus he will be suspended for the first match of Barcelona in the Champions League for breaching general principles of conduct and violating basic rules of decent conduct. Now, we don't know what these violations are a result of, but we did see Flick complaining about refereeing, so maybe that's why, as we've seen, UEFA, La Liga, they've all become hypersensitive, where you can't say anything about refereeing because, oh my God, fine, right away. But if Real Madrid TV spends every single week after week, year after year, making videos about referees, trashy referees, that's fine. But if a coach says something, all hell breaks loose. Again, we'll find out what these fines were a result of, but so far, Hansi Flick will miss the first Champions League match, and also he's been fined 20,000 euros, and also Marcus Sorg, his assistant, he too will be suspended one match, and he too will have to pay a 20,000 euro fine. And also Barcelona were fined. Barcelona were fined 5,250 euros because the fans threw objects, and 2,500 euros because the fans lit up fireworks. Anyways, on to the next bit of news, because Barcelona have cut all ties with the promoter D-Drive as a result of the, commotion, let's put it that way, in the pre-season tour. Now, as you know by now, the night before Barcelona were set to fly to Japan for the pre-season Asia tour, they announced that they were canceling their trip to Japan because the promoter D-Drive, who Barcelona had partnered up with, had not paid Barcelona or had not deposited the money. So Barcelona canceled their trip to Japan. D-Drive ended up blaming another promoter, the Yoshida Group. But either ways, Rakuten, who are a major sponsor of Vissel Kobe, who were a sponsor of Barcelona in the past, decided to cover the money that Barcelona were not paid. And as a result, Barcelona did end up flying to Japan and eventually to Korea to complete their pre-season tour, where Barcelona have now announced that they have cut all ties with D-Drive because of what happened. But I don't think that's the big news. The big news actually is something that a lot of people are not talking about. We have now found out why Barcelona partner up with D-Drive to begin with. Because Barcelona have always worked with NSN, Never Say Never, which is the promoter owned by Andres Iniesta. Barcelona have always worked with that company and everything has gone well. This summer, they decided to partner up with D-Drive. And it all went to hell. Now, why did Barcelona decide to leave NSN, a promoter they've worked with a lot in the past and they know, and that everything has worked out perfectly for a promoter that they didn't know? Well, it turns out that the owner of D-Drive was friends of no other than Enric Masip. Now, if you don't know who Enric Masip is, he is a friend of Joan Laporta, a very close friend of Joan Laporta, someone who is running the club alongside Joan Laporta, even though he has absolutely no official title or position. As you know by now, there's been a lot of vacant positions where board of director members have left the club, and Joan Laporta has refused to fill those positions with other capable people. Instead, he has surrounded himself by his friends like Enric Masip and Jean Olivier. And even though Enric Masip was never elected, has never been appointed, he is still running the club alongside Joan Laporta. That right there is problematic. That's nepotism. But nonetheless, now it turns out that not only is Laporta bringing his friends into the club to run it with him, but now he's also helping out his friends by getting the company of those friends business with Barcelona, because that's the only reason why Barcelona partner up with D-Drive, someone they had never worked with, because the owner of D-Drive is a friend of Enric Masip. And look what happened. But nothing to see here, guys. This is just Mo being a hater. No corruption. Nothing's going on. Look the other way. But anyways, on to the next bit of news, and this is good news because, ladies and gentlemen, Ferran Torres is back training with the group. Now, Ferran had missed the final match of the preseason against Daegu FC for muscle overload. When he returned to Barcelona, he missed the first training, but now Ferran Torres is officially back with the team training, so that means he has recovered from his muscle overload. We'll see if he'll play in the Joan Gamper Trophy match, but either way, whether he plays or doesn't, the fact that he's training again means that he's recovered, which means he will be available for the important match, which will be, of course, the first La Liga fixture against Mallorca. By the way, I announced during the podcast that now I'm going to be doing watch-alongs every match on the weekends all throughout the season, starting with the Joan Gamper Trophy match. Now, on to the next bit of news, because of course we all know by now that Inigo Martinez has left the club in order to join Al Nassr, and even though it is of course a loss for Barcelona, one player that does stand to benefit from this departure is Jofre Torrents. Now, why does Jofre Torrents stand to gain from this? Because as we saw during the preseason, Flick was trying out Gerard Martin as a left center back, and now that of course has made us all wonder, is he gonna stay there? Since Inigo Martinez is now gone and Barcelona have no left-footed center back, so maybe Gerard Martin could enter the rotation as the fifth center back. And if he does, of course, that would leave the substitute of Balde's position empty, and that could be filled by Jofre Torrents, who of course is a left back, someone that Flick has been watching for quite some time, someone that Flick is very impressed with and thinks that Jofre Torrents could be the competition for Alejandro Balde in the future. And that is why Flick ended up calling up Jofre Torrents to the preseason and taking him with him to the preseason tour. And after playing in all three matches, it's reported that the club are very happy with Jofre Torrents' performance. They believe that he has, great defensive coverage. And when it comes to attacking, he's actually superior to Gerard Martin, which, as we know, Gerard Martin has always been a defensive profile, good at defending, not so much at attacking. Jofre Torrents can attack a lot more. He's more of a Alejandro Balde profile. So for now, the plan for Jofre Torrents is to stay with Barca Athletic. But since Gerard Martin could end up becoming a left center back, now Jofre Torrents has a chance of getting more minutes on the first team. Now, we will end today's video with an interview that Pedri did, where he discussed some of the nominations regarding the Ballon d'Or. And he was also asked an interesting question and decided to share that answer, because he was asked, do you think the Barcelona midfield, now that they've been doing great under Flick, is close to what the Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets midfield was? And this is what the Barcelona midfielders said. We are definitely not at that level of Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets. I hope we can reach their level someday, and what they did for our team and our national team. We are trying to play like them, but we still have a long way to go to reach them. Now, of course, everybody has to agree with this. We're not there yet. I think Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets was the best midfield in the history of our club, one of the best midfields in the history of the sport, period. However, I do want to say this. I don't know about the entire midfield, but I do think that Pedri does have what it takes to not only match the quality of perhaps Iniesta, but even to surpass it. And I know that's big words, but why do I say that? Because Iniesta started to shine a little later in his career, towards his prime, 26, 27. Pedri is already doing this at such a young age. So if Pedri keeps it up, he's going to be able to do it for a lot longer period of time. So I think Pedri does have the potential of eventually matching Iniesta, maybe even surpassing him. Of course, I'm saying the potential. I'm not saying right now. Right now, of course not. Right now, Iniesta is absolutely untouchable. But who knows? And plus, why wouldn't we want Pedri to surpass Iniesta, and for someone who comes after Pedri to surpass Pedri? That only means that the bar keeps getting higher and higher, and of course, that's beneficial for our club. But I do want to hear you guys' thoughts and opinions. What do you think about these statements? What do you think about Barcelona ever being able to surpass our greatest midfield ever, the Xavi, Iniesta, Buzi midfield? Let me know down below. Anyways, that is all the news for this video. I did do the podcast earlier today. If you haven't seen it yet, make sure to check it out. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. And as always, Visca Barça.